Acquiring talent. So obviously with growing something like Snow and you're doing so, I jokingly said, I didn't jokingly say it, but I was like, man, how are you getting all this stuff done? And yesterday we talked about just kind of a real quick recap. We went from like the branding, the strategy, the goal, the market, the disruptive goal, how are we going to do it, blah, blah. And now it's, okay, so how do you make this happen? You need good quality people. So let's start there with like, overall thought process about people, and then your strategy of acquiring talent, moving, and then how do you actually manage this? Because I think one of the other things is how do you manage, and how have you grown as a leader, and what are some strategy or tips there?
Yeah, so it comes down to the strategy is to always be moving to higher value work. So that's like as you grow your company, that's the underlying strategy is to move to that higher value work. And so, listing out everything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis and what the value is on the market for what you're doing. So you want to make sure that you're moving to that higher value work. So for me, now what I'm spending most of my time doing is recruiting A players, which we'll talk about, recruiting team members, working on strategic deals, working with affiliates. Like, for example, we're going heavy into email this year. We have, the highest paying offer in our industry. We're really setting it up so that we can make a lot of people that mail for us and promote for us a lot of money. So creating that opportunity strategically is something I'm focused on this year. Obviously talking to retailers and then the really large celebrities and the large agents. Those are things that are very difficult to hire for. Initially it's like media buying, copywriting. Those are generally difficult to hire for. They're expensive to hire for. So for me, what I'm always looking at is how am I spending the time in my day, and how can I move that to things that I'd have to pay a few $100 per hour for, or $1,000 an hour for. And so I still do a lot of the very high level sales copywriting when we're launching a new product. And my hobby is spending time in market research and looking at different industries and seeing how they're evolving and how we can mimic that. So for me, and then obviously spending time with my A players. So an A player is someone who is a multiplier. So there's a book I love called Multipliers. It's a great book to read. It talks about not just Good to Great and Multipliers. Those two books pretty much cover the majority of what you need to know for hiring A players. So an A player is someone who can not just multiply the people around them, but they also multiply the work that they do in terms of the output. So they're high-performing individuals. A players want to work with other A players, and so what I've done on the tactical side to get these A players is going on LinkedIn and finding companies that have gone from 10 to 100 million recently, or gone from 100 million to 500 million that I like. I like the brands. They don't have to be in our space. In fact, they're very rarely ever in our space. But it could be, a cologne company. It could be a shoe company. And I've seen, for example, Allbirds, which is a company that's exploded in the last few years, going on LinkedIn and seeing who was there 3 years ago and who's still there and what role are they in. And so what I'll do a lot of times is I'll reach out and say on LinkedIn, if I can find their email address, or I'll send them a LinkedIn email. And I'll say, hey, can I pay you for an hour of your time to consult with me? I'm looking to hire for this type of role. Maybe you know someone in your network. And so that gives you an opportunity to get on the phone with that individual and explain to them the vision of what we're building. And ultimately, people want a purpose. They want to be involved with something great. And so my job is to explain to them how we're going to build something great, how big we're going to grow it, and why we need to fill this role in this position. And so the way that I lead, the strategy how I lead is high expectation, low pressure. So if you do high expectation, high pressure, you burn people out. Low expectation, low pressure, obviously you go out of business. So for me, it's high expectation. So when people join my team, they know that we are a team of overachievers. We're just high performing, self-starters. We just go. But I always analogize it to, like, if you're recruiting for a basketball team, let's say, and you want to get LeBron James on your team. Well, if you don't have another A player already on your team, you've got to make sure that 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 your gym is waxed, the balls are inflated, you've got the best equipment. And so that sometimes that means taking the shirt off your own back as a leader in order to make sure that your A players coming into an environment that they feel comfortable in.